Ladies and gentlemen, this is Pastor Sean, and in this video I'm going to be talking about how long the tribulation is going to be and when is the tribulation going to begin. How close are we in our present time right now from entering into the tribulation? I believe we're in the birth pains. I believe we're in the beginning stages, and I believe the Antichrist is already setting up things right now, and I believe he's working behind the scenes, and eventually he is going to step up and he's going to sign a peace treaty with Israel. He's going to confirm it. That's a pact with Israel for 7 years. But I want to talk about how long I believe the tribulation is going to last and when is it going to begin. So I'm going to be getting right into the book of Daniel, chapter 9, and I'm going to read verse 27. And I believe that God has a word for you today. So before I read the scriptures, if you have not subscribed to this channel, I encourage you to smash that subscribe button, and it would really help this channel to grow and to get the message and the word out. And if you could put a like on this video as well, it would really help this video, and it would help us to get this message out, bring more traffic to this channel. And thank you for your support. But anyway, Daniel chapter 9, and I'm going to read verse 27. And this is all about the Antichrist, and he's going to come on the scene. When is he going to come on the scene, and how long is the tribulation period going to begin? Daniel 9:27 says, "And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week." That week, if you break it down, is 7 years. And it says, "And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease." That sacrifice and oblation, that's the peace treaty that he has with Israel. He's going to cause it to cease. He's going to end it. And he says, "And for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate." He's going to make it desolate, meaning he is going to go into the temple. He's going to demand praise, demand worship. He's going to go in the Antichrist, and he's going to break this peace treaty in the midst of the week. The midst of the week is 3.5 years. He's going to have a peace treaty, and then he's going to step in and he's going to persecute, chase after the Jewish nation. And the Bible also says that the Antichrist is going to come and wear out the saints. But that's something I want to talk about in a moment. But it says this, "And he shall make it desolate, even unto the consummation, and determined shall be poured upon the desolate." The consummation is a purpose, God's eternal purpose. This is going to happen until God comes back. Jesus comes back. We know he's coming back, and that's going to be something that is going to be amazing. When Jesus comes, the Antichrist is going to be thrown into the lake of fire and brimstone, and it's going to be a wonderful time when Jesus returns. But how long does the tribulation period begin? Well, scholars, many people have talked about this. We read Daniel, and you're reading Daniel chapter 9, verse 27, but Daniel 9:24, and it continues. It talks about Daniel's 70 weeks, and it builds up to 62 weeks when the Messiah was cut off. And then it talks about literally 7 more weeks, we get to 69 weeks. And what scholars believe and people and individuals believe about this Daniel 70 weeks is that the tribulation period is the last week. So it has to be 7 years. This is where they get 7-year tribulation from this scripture. But unfortunately, there's no verse here that specifies. You can infer that it's a 7-year tribulation, but there's no Bible verse that says the tribulation is 7 years. Here's the reason why. All scholars will say that when the Antichrist signs the peace treaty, when he confirms it, like it says right here, he will confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. That's 7 years. They say that's the beginning of the tribulation. Nowhere does it say right there. It does not say in scripture that just because he signs this and he confirms it for a week, that means that the tribulation begins when he signs it. We know that the peace treaty is definitely going to be 7 years because it says it's 1 week. And then we go into the book of Daniel. I'm going to read Daniel chapter 12 in a moment, and it specifies the great tribulation, how long that's going to be. Do I believe in scripture that rapture is going to come before, the tribulation period? I do not, actually. And I've been clear on this in many of my videos. Now, if you believe in pre-tribulation rapture, that's fine, and it's wonderful. I'm looking forward to his coming too, and I want him to come back as soon as possible. But we look at Daniel chapter 7, and we read verse 25, and it says, "And he shall speak great words against the Most High." This is the abomination of desolation. "And he shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change the times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until the times and the dividing of times." The Antichrist, after, he breaks this covenant with Israel, this peace treaty, he's going to wear out the saints. He's going to go into the temple to be worshipped, and he's going to wear out the saints. If the rapture occurs, then how's the saints being worn out? I thought they would be raptured and be in heaven, but he's coming to wear them out. That's what the scriptures say. You know what that corresponds with? If you read the book of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3 and 4, it says that day will not come, the day of the Lord. It doesn't say anything else but the day of the Lord. I believe that's the rapture. I believe that he's going to come, and it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful blessing. Once we end up getting raptured, we're going to be with Christ in perpetuity. It's going to be for eternity, and it's going to be amazing. We're going to be with him forever when we get caught up in the air. And I believe we're going to get caught up in the clouds. This is something I do believe. But I don't believe it's pre-tribulation rapture. Now, where does pre-tribulation rapture come from? It comes from the 1830s. This was never taught before. This is taught by an individual by the name of John Nelson Darby. He taught this in the 1830s, same time the book of Mormon was written, and the Mormon religion started. It was the same time, 1830s. This is when John Nelson Darby created this doctrine. He was from the Plymouth Brethren. He created the Schofield Bible, and it just kind of infiltrated into the churches, but it was never preached before 1830. And so this has been something that's been talked about for a long time. But why does Daniel 7:25 say the Antichrist is going to go in and he's going to demand worship, and then he's going to wear out the saints if the saints are gone? So this is something we need to open our eyes to and be something we need to be focused on, because Matthew 24 and verse 15 says, "And when you shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of in the book of Daniel." How can you see it as believers if we are raptured? 2 Thessalonians, I just mentioned it, chapter 2, verse 3 and verse 4. What does it say? It says something very powerful. It says, "That day will not come, the day of the Lord, until there be a great falling away, apostasy of the church." There'll be a falling away. "And that man of sin be revealed." He reveals himself. And in verse 4 says, when he goes into the temple and he demands praise and acts like he is God. And this is the abomination of desolation. And this is what's going to happen during that time. How long do I think the tribulation is? It doesn't specify. It's inferred that it's 7 years, because scholars will say when the Antichrist confirms this peace treaty, then it's 7 years, because the peace treaty is 7 years, because they say the tribulation starts when the Antichrist creates a peace treaty, but it doesn't say that the tribulation starts. It doesn't say at all when it starts. But well, I'm going to give you I want to read Daniel chapter 12, and I want to read verse 11. It says, "From the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. From the abomination of desolation, when the Antichrist," this is Daniel chapter 12, verse 11, "when the Antichrist breaks the peace treaty," that's the abomination of desolation, he makes a peace treaty and it's an abomination. He goes into the temple, he makes it desolate, cleans everything out. The Israelites leave, and they are going to be fleeing into the mountains. This is the abomination of desolation. It says there shall be 2,290 days, 1,290 days. And that's 3.5 years. So the Great Tribulation, after the abomination of desolation, the Great Tribulation is going to last 3.5 years. Here's one thing I do know for sure. This is certain. When the Antichrist signs the peace treaty, there's 7 years left. And that's going to be it. And it's going to be 3.5 years. He's going to have this peace treaty, and then the last 3.5 years is the Great Tribulation. But it doesn't say the Antichrist, when he signs it, that the tribulation has started. You can't see it in Daniel 9:27. It doesn't say that starts the tribulation. It's inferred, it is applied, it's assumed. And you know what? Just like pre-tribulation rapture is a lot of metaphors, shadows, a lot of different types of, analogies and things like that. But there's nothing that says in Scripture, this is pre-tribulation rapture. You cannot look at a verse. It's not in the Bible. You can't find it. It can only be inferred. Now, I want to go into the book of Matthew, chapter 24, and I want to read a powerful passage of scripture. It's in Matthew 24 and verse 34. It says, "Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall not pass away." So what is Jesus talking about in Matthew 24, verse 34 and 35? It says, this generation shall not pass till all things be fulfilled in the tribulation. So Jesus, he didn't give a time frame when the tribulation started. We know that in Daniel 9:27, I know that all these scholars, a lot of them say that that's the beginning of the tribulation when he signs this and confirms this peace treaty, but it doesn't say it in scripture. Jesus referred to a generation. So how long is the tribulation going to last? We do not know. It doesn't specify, but Jesus said this generation shall not pass till all be fulfilled. How long is a generation? We don't know. Are we in the beginning of the tribulation? I believe we're in the birth pains. What are 10 things that Jesus talks about in Matthew 24 about some of the things that are going to happen during the tribulation period? He talks about false prophets are going to come. Many are going to come in my name saying, I am Christ, and deceive many. There's going to be wars. We see that going on right now in Ukraine and Russia and Iran and all of these different Middle Eastern countries. Syria and China is making a pact with Russia and Iran, and there's wars. People talking about, shooting missiles into Israel, and the United States is nuclear talk. All of this going on. It says wars, rumors of wars, famines. That's the third thing. Pestilences, the fourth. Earthquakes in divers places. We just seen a big one in Syria and in Turkey. And then 6, persecution of the church. We see that going on in Middle Eastern countries, in China, all over the place. 7, betrayals. Many are going to be betrayed. They're going to betray one another. And then 8, increased sin. It's going to be iniquity is going to abound. The 9 is going to be hatred. The love of many shall wax cold during that time. And then 10 is going to be many are going to be offended. They're going to be offended by the gospel. So all of these things must happen. There's going to be a great, great falling away during that time. And so tribulation is going to be happening soon, and it's going to last a while. But I really believe that, Christians are going to, God's going to come back for us. But I do believe that we may have to go through some things. You know what Matthew 24 and verse 29 says? Immediately after, Matthew 24:29, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. Cosmic disturbances. And the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet. And they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. It says after the tribulation of those days, he's going to gather his elect. It never says before the tribulation of those days, he's going to gather the elect. Matthew 24, verse 29, 30, 31. So, again, I believe that the tribulation is something we are entering into very soon. We are close. It doesn't specify when, but I believe it's coming. We need to be ready. Jesus is going to come, and we're going to be caught up. I don't know when that's going to happen. I believe we may have to go through some tribulation before that happens. But I do believe he is going to protect us when we're on the earth. And I do believe that God's favor will come upon us, and we will be able to witness. And the reason why I believe he leaves us here for some of that period is because I believe we need to continue to propagate the gospel so that souls will be saved and lives will be changed. If this devotion blessed you, I encourage you to put a comment below. Let me know what you're thinking. And again, if you could subscribe to this channel, I'd appreciate it. And God bless you as you continue to follow him.